Okay, today is Tuesday, December 29th, 2020. Our last Tuesday of the year, right?
No,
It's almost over.
It's almost over. So
Somehow.
I'm Ben Greiner. With me today, Chad Calise and Wyatt Russell. And this is our final live stream of 2020. And Chad, you remember we started this back in the early pandemic days.
That's right. That's right. Seems like forever ago, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Crazy.
I'm gonna share my screen here if I can figure out how to do that. Let's see, add screen share. I gotta stop switching back and forth with all these apps.
It's tricky.
Too many. I'm gonna go into Safari, which I don't have open. So let me open Safari. Let me add my screen share. And my computer's thinking way too hard now. There's my start page, share.
This is the last Tuesday, a lot of things, like the last week, the last day, enjoy the day, week, year, I guess we say to people this week.
That's right.
Enjoy the rest of the week, enjoy the rest of the day, enjoy the rest of the week, enjoy the rest of the year.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
See you next year. Har, har, har.
I'm trying to get to here's what I want to get to. You guys see my screen, Forget Computers Help Center?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm logged in. It looks a little different. I should have used a different browser. I'm logged in, so you see a few different things. But anyone can go to support.forgetcomputers.com. Go to Forget Computers. Forget Computers Live. Here are all the recordings I just posted last week's or 2 weeks ago. But yeah, it looks like we started back March 31st, 2020.
March 31st, yeah.
And I remember at the beginning, we just thought, well, we just need to kind of have a method of getting the word out to people.
Information, yeah.
And
it's hard because everyone was overwhelmed at the same time.
Yes.
And you don't know, it's even worse than ever because our inboxes are full of, schwack, and they're even more full of schwack now because, spammers or scammers are not giving us any rest at all.
That's right. And it looks like we didn't even give some of these a title early on. We had meeting notes, but it was pretty much a rambling.
It was crisis response, man. It was the best we could do. Hey, you folks are going to probably run into some stuff. Hopefully you're listening to this. kind of thing.
And then we got better and better at it, and we got a little more focused, and we're going to continue to improve. And today we want to talk about some year-end things. So let me go back, turn myself on.
And Wyatt's going to do, Wyatt, you're going to do a one P-dub thing, right?
Yeah,
just a little bit, chit-chat with you fellers too,
Cool.
Yeah, what I wanted to do is talk a little bit about year-end kind of cleanup, organizational stuff. We all create or collect a lot of cruft virtually, not just in real life, but virtually. And, we need to take a look at cleaning that up. And a lot of people don't do that. And I'm guilty of it as well. In fact, I have a clean folder on my desktop where I kind of sometimes before presentations, I'll throw everything in there. And full disclosure, I've had clean folders within clean folders, clean folders, and sometimes I never get around to deleting that. And that's one project. Yes, like cleaning out your closet. It's not fun, but it needs to be done occasionally. But I want to talk.
It feels so good when it's done.
It does feel good, yeah. I want to talk specifically about cleaning up apps, and then we're going to kind of clean up some passwords too. So before we get to the password bit, Chad, you want to talk a little bit about and I know I'm throwing this at you. We didn't really even get a chance to talk this week, but talk a little bit about the risk of just, continually downloading apps, more so on the iPhone and iPad, but I see people do it on the Mac as well.
And Apple TVs, we just had this discussion, as a family, about, hey, one little guy in our family here, he's really great about removing stuff, even processes running apps that are running. A lot of us don't still, just keep everything that we've ever launched on our phone or our iPad or whatever is still running somewhere, right? And sometimes cleaning those things up is great for performance because then your device works better. So it's not just a security thing; it's a time saver and just a frustration and stress saver for sure. But to the security side, the resilience side of removing applications probably can't be overstated, because if I have, let's say, we had a weather station that we got last year for Christmas. This is a great example of this. We set up the weather station out on the back fence, so we could, wind speed, wind direction, all that kind of stuff, barometer, rainfall, and we had to install this app. We haven't really used it since probably last February or March, and it's still, on some of these devices, and we went around, cleaned it off and removed it. Why is that a good idea? Well, not all apps are maintained well. Some of them are, right? Some of them very popular ones are, but ones that are kind of fringy, right? And by fringy, what do I mean by that? I mean, like, apps that we might use to do this one thing, right? Like this one thing, like maybe put a funny specific kind of animation in a photo, and we use it this one time to send this one thing to this one pal, and then the app still lives on our phone, but we never use it, right? That's a great candidate to get rid of, because those are just more avenues for, bad people to use against, or it's one more company that if they get a breach, then they're still connected to you, right? So if you're not using it, just sever those connections. It's just kind of like any other kind of relationship, I guess. If you're not really getting anything out of it, it's best to just clean it up.
Yeah, and back in the day, I think a lot of people, especially maybe people of our age, they remember deleting stuff that they should never have deleted, and there was no way to get it back.
Yeah, that's true.
And maybe because we didn't have a backup. But today, with so much of this stuff living in the cloud, 9 times out of 10, you can delete an app, and if you ever need it again, you just go get it again.
Yeah,
like even if you paid for it, it's still you're in your records, and you can download it again. Now, I want to be careful. There are always exceptions. There could be an app that has data stored locally, and Apple will warn
password
you.
managers, things like that. That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So don't just say, "Oh, Ben said I could delete anything and get it back." That's not what I'm saying. But in most cases, you can delete.
Good.
Yeah. In fact, Big Sur, the new operating system from Apple. What we're learning is in order to download Big Sur, it's a very big download. You have to download it. It needs room to expand. It needs room to install. It needs room to clean up. And you have to have about 36 gigs minimum free on your hard drive. Now that sounds like maybe a lot, maybe not a lot. We actually have a lot of clients who don't have 36 gigs free on their hard drive. And one of those computers was my son's notebook. And to be fair, he has a 120 gig hard drive because it's a hand-me-down. So he doesn't have a lot of space.
It's not a lot of space, yeah.
But, we were trying to figure out how we could free up enough space to install Big Sur. And I'm not pushing anyone here install Big Sur, but I was pushing my son to install it so I could use him as a test. So all of his work, schoolwork was done for the year. He didn't need to worry about anything other than having fun on the computer. So it's like, hey, we're going to put Big Sur on here and see how the upgrade process goes and see how it works. The point being,
and you said it was an older machine too, right? So that was a good test to do. That's smart.
Yeah. And really, it's not a big, if something was broken on that computer, it wasn't a big deal. We could figure it out or do a workaround. It wasn't a work environment. It wasn't a work computer. But what we discovered is he had a lot of apps that were valid apps. I mean, the entire Office 365 suite, which he uses at school, he had on his computer, and we decided, you know what, we're going to delete all your Microsoft apps, and we're going to delete iMovie, even though he uses iMovie. And we decided to do that because in the short term, he could always use the online apps for Office 365. He wasn't storing anything locally. Now, that being said, some people do store email locally, so be careful before you go deleting your apps. But in this case, we removed his apps and we removed iMovie, and that freed up like 20 gigs of space right there. So then we had room to install Big Sur. And actually, once Big Sur was installed and removed itself, I think it freed up about 10 gigs just on its own, like getting rid of the old operating system and putting on the new one. So there's some advantages to that. But the point being,
probably too.
GarageBand was actually another one we removed,
because they save all the version. They do a versioning, and that adds up. How much did you get rid of total then from just those two apps? 20, 30 gigs?
I don't remember, but it was significant. I mean, we did get rid of messages. We got rid of some old email. We did some basic cleanup, but it was still really tight. So we got rid of those apps, and he's just going to download them as he needs them, going forward.
Yeah, that's a tough mindset, though. I think that way, and our team thinks that way. But it's not easy to help others, kind of shift their mindset away from this, like, oh, everything's really fragile. And in a lot of ways, it is fragile. It's duct tape, and baling wire. But in the case of that, what you're talking about, getting apps back and stuff is really, and downloading an app. That takes. I remember being stuck. Like, oh my god! Like I had to download an app to get access to a ticket that I got for something. I can't remember, like an event. This is pre-pandemic, and I stood there in the parking lot and downloaded it on my way to the elevator. Right, I downloaded the app on my way to the elevator, so it is okay. It's a little scary maybe at first because you don't have everything, but it's such peace of mind because it's more secure. It just makes more sense, and it's less to keep track of.
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, we used to have to feed disk into the computer. Like Quark Express would ship with like multiple disk, either CDs or floppies, or a floppy key to unlock the CD. It's so much easier. So don't be afraid to delete apps. But more specifically, going back to what you were saying, Chad, from a security standpoint, I think our iPhones are most susceptible to just having tons of apps that we don't use. And there is a feature where Apple will automatically remove the app if you haven't used it in a period of time. Does anyone know if they have a name for that? Or
I don't know.
I think it's in the settings. I'm going to look.
Yeah, they do. I forget what it's called. And then they put them all on the app. I think it's app library. They throw them all in the app library.
Yep, exactly.
So,
but I don't know where the app library settings are. I was just.
We're going to have to look this up. If you go
to delete an app in iOS now, you'll get asked, do you want to remove it from the home screen or do you want to delete it? So removing it from the home screen throws it into that app library. So it's still there if you want it with the data. And then delete, obviously, is delete. And then I believe I'm not going to delete the app that I just selected, but I believe that if you select delete app, it then asks you if you want to keep the data for the app and delete the app. So the data is still there if you want to download the app again at some point, so it can pull that data back in.
I remember that.
But anyway, I think it's the app library, and because to both of your point, I mean, when I upgraded to iOS 14, I just started nuking apps off my phone. I'm like, when was the last time I used this? Like, if I haven't used it in 30 days, like I'm probably not going to use it. And it's simpler to look at. So not only the security portion you're talking about, Chad, but just to kind of simplify, you're not just looking at this mass of applications on your phone.
It's you bring up another point too. You inspire me to think of something else too, Wyatt. Thank you. That every time we do an update, it didn't used to matter because there weren't quotas, there weren't quotas, on things for bandwidth capping and things. But everything that we do, like every app that we have, it's going to update regularly, right? So if there's 10 apps that we're updating that we're not using, that bandwidth is basically getting wasted. And it may not matter today at this particular moment in time, but as time goes on, these things become more and more restrictive, right? So it's going to come down to the point where, I mean, some people I know who are heavy gamers, for example, get capped, at some point throughout the month. And so all of these things matter, like wasting water and just having all the faucets on all the time is kind of an analogy for having all these apps on all these devices all the time, always updating. And there's a ton of bandwidth just being wasted, right? It's bandwidth, meaning that up and down, information kind of moves like water, so maybe think of it as like, water pressure. And we're in the early, years of like wasting everything and being really irresponsible in a lot of ways, not just security, whatever, but just overall efficiency and use of our available resources, right? And so there's some kind of ecology to cleaning these things up too. I don't know exactly if that's in scope of this particular live stream, but it's something to think about.
Well, so I just looked up how to do this, and basically how to delete apps, which we talked about, and set up automatic offloading. So apparently Apple
that's what it's
calls
called.
it
Yeah.
automatic offloading.
Automatic
and if you go into
offloading
settings,
and that's in managing space, right? That's in storage management, isn't it?
It's in settings, general, and then iPhone storage.
Yep.
And within iPhone storage, there is an option to offload unused apps. And automatically offload unused apps when you're low on storage. Your documents and data will be saved. And then when that happens, the app will get a little cloud icon next to it. And if you ever do need to use it, you'll have to wait a minute as it re-downloads.
But the cloud notifies you notifies us at a glance that we have had it before and we have some data on our device, right? That's what the little cloud means. Okay, cool.
That's right. And interestingly, I tried to find it on my iPad, and I went to the same area, general iPad storage, and I can. There's a recommendation to review large attachments and save up to 5 gigs of video attachments with my messages, which is interesting. And then I've got podcasts and things. But I don't see the option to offload apps on my iPad, so I don't know if they just don't give you that.
Ben, I'm looking at it on my iPhone, and I'm not seeing it either. So the offload apps option.
Well, do you already have it turned on? Maybe.
I do.
I didn't. Maybe,
I definitely
but I don't
have it
remember
turned on
doing
because I see the little cloud icon next to my apps. But
yeah, you probably do then.
In summary. Go through your apps.
Yeah.
If you haven't used them and you don't think you'll use them in the next day or two, just delete them, clean everything up, reduce your risk of that app being a security hole in your resilience, and free up space, reduce bandwidth. It's good habits. Recommend it. So let's transition to cleaning up our passwords, because that's something else that we need good password hygiene, right? And that means we have to tend to the garden occasionally and do some cleaning. And Wyatt, I don't know if you can do a demo of 1Password today or not, or we can just talk about it.
Real quick to come off of what you were talking about, Ben, and what we were just talking about for the last 15 minutes. I think it is really more important to focus on your apps on your iOS devices than on your Mac. Especially in an enterprise setting. A lot of folks that I get on with that are looking to free space up, the first thing they do is go, oh, well, let's start deleting applications. It's usually not the culprit. And I'm not discounting what you're saying, Ben, because it is important to keep your apps cleaned up. The culprit, most of the time, downloads folder, desktop, documents folder. Those are the 3 big ones.
Those are good points,
But if you're looking to free space up on your Mac, I would start with downloads and then go to desktop, and then apps maybe last. Yes, iMovie's huge, GarageBand is huge, and if we have a lot of those turned off for a lot of our clients anyway. Not discounting what Ben said at all.
But messages is another one too.
Never discount what I say. Never.
He did mention messages though, and I think that's easy to overlook because if people are sending a lot of big, memes and dank memes. I mean, my messages can get huge.
Is very different than Mac OS when it comes to applications.
Yeah, that's true.
And so, just all those rogue little one-off apps like Chad was referring to, like Face Melter or whatever that you downloaded 3 years ago to use once. That maybe hasn't been actively maintained, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so moving on to passwords.
Sure.
And I was just going to show you to that point, if you go under Apple menu, about this Mac, and then you switch over to storage, there is a manage button here. And if you click on manage, it'll give you some really good tips on how you can
That is a great place to start. Really good place to start. Now that Apple has baked that in, and if you need to get more granular, there are some third-party utilities out there to get to drill in deeper. But that's a really good place to start. Good suggestion, Ben.
What I'm finding is because we're all, at least I am, with my family and friends, especially being isolated, we're all sending messages and message attachments, and those attachments add up. Chad, I think you mentioned it. Messages with photos, videos, memes, whatever you're throwing in there, that stuff adds up.
Yeah. And totally. We talked about this last time a little bit about shortcuts being a really awesome, native app on iOS. That's, like Automator and Mac OS. Mm-hmm. And, LJ and I, we made one to create a
we got a frozen Chad. Well, he seems to have frozen.
Chad's been hacked.
Chad has been de-resiliented.
Okay. Well, let's move on to 1Password.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about 1Password a lot, and the reason we do that is because we love it. And from
Comcast. Sorry.
Hey, welcome back, Chad. We were just talking about the
world's
most loved password manager.
We were just talking about one of our top 5 hated companies, Comcast. Anyway, no, we were talking about one of our favorite applications, and probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite application, 1Password. And so, from me, kind of being a day-to-day person and dealing with clients and seeing the habits that clients have, most people reuse passwords. And if they don't reuse the exact password, they use some derivation on a theme for all of their passwords. With everything, and Chad can hopefully dovetail off what I'm saying here, but with everything that we're seeing, all of the security incidents we've seen in 2020 are only going to get worse. We're only going to see things get worse. And one of the biggest step you can take is getting a password manager like 1Password to manage your passwords for you, so you can have strong, unique passwords for each login that you use. And then you only have to remember one password. And it's an inexpensive application. Ben, you've mentioned before, it's a digital wallet. It's not just for managing passwords. I could go through and show you all of the different things that you can store in here. It's such a powerful application. I don't know what I would do without it. I've been using it for the better part of a decade. And again, the most important part for me is I don't have a photographic memory, and I'm not going to reuse passwords. So I have to have something. And 1Password is just so easy to use. It's so lightweight, inexpensive. It just, to me, it's a no-brainer. But I understand the changes. It's hard.
I don't know any of my passwords other than the one I need to log in. And to be fair, I actually don't know that one very well. I just have it. Between all my devices, Face ID, Touch ID, Mac, iPad, iPhone, typically when I get a prompt to re-authenticate with 1Password, I'll go to the other device to get that password.
Same.
And only once, and I even have it on my watch so I can get to it, but only once was I in a situation where I'm like, oh man, I have to go to the safe. I had to go into my house and get this piece of paper out and be like,
you have to get the emergency packet.
Yes, and you need that. You need don't diminish that.
Yeah, there's no resetting master passwords with 1Password. That's the one password that you do have to remember. One only. The rest will do. It'll do for you. But I just Chad, don't you think that we get so many questions with well, geez, this or that company and this hack or that hack or whatever the flavor of the week or the day is. And I think one of the things I think we could say to folks is, instead of focusing on the minutia of those, is to start by being more resilient as an end user and use a password manager.
Well, it saves a lot of work in a crisis. That's probably the second thing that I tell everyone. Folks that haven't used a password manager before. The first thing I tell them is how much time it saves day to day.
No question.
Right. I tend to mention the security and resilience, values of it later, because that's really not a priority for most people, honestly. But saving time, like if you can save yourself 20 clicks a day, that might not seem like a lot in a day, but over the course of a year, that is a lot of, time and memorization. And, when something happens, when we're a victim of an identity theft, for example, right? And we've seen our fair share of it so far this year. The first thing that we need to do is assess, like kind of asset inventory our online identity, right? We need to go through and make a list of all our accounts that could then be compromised as a result of the one, right? Then the many get compromised. And so before that happens, we hustle through this process with people who have been victimized by ID theft and go through their accounts. And you start at Amazon, and you don't have to do it in alphabetical order, but it's helpful for some people to go Amazon, then B, if they have Barnes and Noble, like go through the whole thing, all their email addresses they've used, and then go to those sites and like add them into the password manager, right? But they've already been breached. So they're doing this to clean it up and prevent it from getting worse. That's the worst situation to be in. It's the worst weekend of your life you'll ever spend. But if you, cut it up into chunks and do a little bit more, every day or two, before a couple weeks goes by, you're styling, and then if something happens, boy, you can mitigate that stuff really fast. And it's just, there's so much value to it.
I think that's where people get overwhelmed because they know there's a lot of work to be done, and then they just know it's going to take them forever, and they don't want to do it. It's kind of trying to get back into exercise. Like, oh my God, this is going to be so hard. I don't know if I want to do this. But if you just do a little bit each day, you will get better and better, and you'll get there.
A lot more manageable.
And looking back,
the nice thing with 1Password too, if maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're saying, is if you go to Amazon and you haven't, and you have 1Password, most of the time and you have the extension installed, 1Password's going to say, "Do you want to remember this login?"
Yeah, it does the work for you.
It's probably also going to say, multi-factor authentication is available here. Do you want to enable it? Yeah. And it'll help you with that too. 1Password will show you compromised websites where you've duped passwords, where you have weak passwords, where multi-factor authentication is available. Make sure if you can, enable it everywhere you can.
You mentioned Watchtower, which we should call that out, because that's a really cool tool that's built into 1Password. So as time goes on, we learn more and more why it's bad to reuse the same password, right? And
Ben, if you want to give me the ability to share my screen, I can show you. I can kind of show what it looks like while Chad's talking about.
Oh, sure. Well, I was going to say that I was going to talk about password stuffing. Credential stuffing is what we call it in InfoSec, but it's basically when criminals get their hand on 1Password, not 1Password, the tool, but a password, right? Someone's password from a breach and, some incident that occurred to a company that was maybe irresponsible. And so some of those things are exposed, like maybe my password gets exposed in a LinkedIn breach or something, who knows. Criminals are going to eventually have access to that as they make that data available to researchers, right, for legit purposes. Criminals will also have access to that, and they can pull those passwords out of those things and then go, if they have a login for someone for Yahoo, for example, they're going to try that same stuff at Wells Fargo and Chase and Amazon and Apple, and they're going to try it everywhere, and we call that credential stuffing. And that's why reusing the same password in other places is really a bad idea. And when password manager, whatever password manager you use, helps you eliminate that. And that dramatically reduces, my camera timed out here. That dramatically reduces your risks. I mean, it's worth it.
Do we lose Wyatt?
No, I'm here.
No, he's there.
Yeah, no,
he's concentrating.
I'm just hiding, sharing my screen.
Okay.
But Chad was pointing out Watchtower. Really, this is a demo vault here for Forget Computers, so it doesn't have my 5 billion passwords in it. But Watchtower will show you, as Chad just mentioned, websites that have been compromised, vulnerable passwords, ones that are in the Have I Been Pawned database, reused passwords.
And if you reuse them,
weak
Exactly. That's the big one.
passwords that are not great.
Mhm.
Unsecured websites, two-factor authentication available. Go enable it on all the sites it's available.
Yeah.
Expiring, probably what? This be like an Active Directory kind of like some. I don't know what that one would be for, Chad.
It could be.
Expiring?
I mean, it depends. If you have sites that are integrated, like with Office 365 and other stuff, it would notify you in here saying that this. Like if you have 1Password, does 1Password integrate with single sign-on services, right? So you could have that.
Well,
remind you.
actually, yeah, what I'm seeing in mine, I actually have 3 that showed up as expiring, and they're all related to either credit cards or some type of like frequent flyer program where I actually have an expiry date in the database.
Oh, that's
Okay.
interesting.
That's
So
cool.
watch out for any items that are about to expire. So that's bigger than we thought. That means a lot more than just passwords.
So that means
it's
if
like
you're
anything having
credit
anything to do with
card
expiring.
an expiration date, if you have a secure note that's got an expiration date, all that stuff that Ben just mentioned there. So that's a pretty
cool.
handy thing they've just baked in there too. It's a really powerful little program.
And the Wyatt, you mentioned a question that I think you were, or maybe you were saying, if I heard you correctly, that a lot of people, when we talk to them about password managers for the first time, a common question, a really common question we get is, well, what if someone breaches my password manager? Then they'll have everything, right? And that's completely a true statement, but man, the amount of work that it would take to do that, because even if I were a bad guy and I got into, say, Ben's or Wyatt's 1Password, I would have to decrypt everything. All of the passwords that are in there are encrypted. I don't even know what they are, right? So it would take a lot of work. And someone might go through the trouble if we were like Jeff Bezos or something. It would take, I think it takes like a weak password, meaning like 6 or 7 characters. It takes a few hours for a computer to crack or guess. The types of passwords that 1Password generates, that can be really long, right? Because length is really what it's all about. It's not about complexity. It's always been about length. And if something the longer it is, the more time it takes. Right. So most of to crack it. And so most of the passwords by default in 1Password are really long, and would take months for machines to, hack these passwords. And so, run of the mill everyday criminals aren't going to go through that kind of trouble. For run of the mill everyday people like us, those are kind of like, nation state actors and, other types of people and cultures. For most people, this is really the best armor you could possibly buy.
Yeah, the juice is not worth the squeeze, is it? In this instance, Chad. So anyway, sorry, Ben. Go ahead.
It's definitely
I just noticed I hadn't seen these icons before that say outdoor license and
look at that.
Social Security number. I think I have my Social Security number in a note right now, at least me and my family, because I have to reference families' numbers sometimes. But so they have a
passport. This is it truly is a digital wallet. I use the secure note feature a lot. Credit cards, if you don't have your credit card, you don't have Apple Pay set up. Identity is nice because that's when, if you're setting an account up and it's like enter your name and your address and and I've actually started to have some quote unquote fun with the identity part, I guess, because I'm now using identities that may or may not be me for things where I don't have to tell them my exact name. I don't have to tell them my phone number, my address.
You don't.
So
you never do. Even banks.
I'm doing some obfuscation these days. So I've got a few different identities, and so that way, I'm trying to minimize my what is it? My threat
your attack surface
model. My attack surface.
You're minimizing your attack surface. And you're right. These kinds of activities help us better understand our threat model, because if we don't think about this stuff, we have no idea. We really don't.
We need to wrap up here, but I want to also mention the new integration 1Password has with the new Safari. The Safari that came out in 10.15 and is rolled into Big Sur. I can't quite describe it, and I don't think we can do a demo of it, but it basically will do an autofill of your username and password, which is a given, but it will also autofill two-factor in many situations. Not all web browsers play well with it, but in many situations, I just hit 1Password and it autofills username, password, and the two-factor. Sometimes even when the two-factor is on the next page, it will do that, and it just feels like I'm saving time every time I do that, because I have to do that a lot every day.
Yeah, the new integration with Safari is really nice if you use Safari. But it works with all of the major browsers, and it also has a mini app that'll sit up in your menu bar. You copy and paste out of there too. You can use the old command / trick, which is what I use to populate things, and then your two-factor gets pasted onto the clipboard. Paste that in, boom, boom, boom. Like Chad said, that saves a lot of time. And especially if you have clients like, hey, I need you to get in here and find something for me. And you're like looking through sticky notes and Excel spreadsheets, and you've got the website there, and you want to log in, but you can't because you can't find the password. Wait, which password is that again? Honey, I don't, hey, no, get out. I mean, so I'm just kind of role playing what I go through on a month-to-month, week-to-week, day-to-day basis ish. So 1Password, yay. Go 1Password.
Yes, 1Password. Do it. Just do it. Go get a copy right now. Start using it.
Pull that trigger.
I'm going to throw one more random thing out there, just because I saw this yesterday, and that is Facebook is continuing to ramp up their pressure on Apple, as if Apple is the bad guy in all of this. Have you guys seen this?
Yes.
Facebook took out an entire full page ad to slam Apple about it, and it's Apple's not preventing anything. They're not preventing anything. All they're doing
Apple's
is
just
bring
being
awareness.
Transparent.
That's it, man. And
well, I just saw
wrong with that.
It was a video. My son was trying to show me something on his computer, and we had to watch one of those videos ads before you could get to the actual video. Had to watch an ad, and it was an ad, a Facebook ad. Anti-Apple. So, Chad, can you summarize what Apple has done to piss off Facebook?
Yeah, I mean, Facebook's entire model, Facebook, and I'm just going to be real transparent about my personal feelings about it. I think Facebook is big tobacco of this generation, and they've had this business model that nobody cared about because nobody understood it. And now people are starting to understand it. And it's becoming more transparent to everyone that, if you look at the privacy profile of, say, WhatsApp versus the privacy profile of, say, Signal Messenger, it is night and day. And that's what Facebook hates, is that now what's the word? Promiscuity, the data promiscuity of Facebook apps has always been off the charts. And now Apple's just bringing it to light. And anybody who's interested can see it in plain day, in simple terms that everyday people can understand. And that has really, stirred up the ire of Facebook.
Yeah, like this headline.
They're educating people.
Yeah, to be fair, I haven't read, but it says Facebook declared war on Apple, and it just may signal the end of Facebook.
That's
we've been
wonderful.
hearing this. I don't know how long we've been hearing this for.
Yeah, that's a little clickbaity. I don't know that clickbaiting. I don't know that Facebook's going to die anytime soon. But certainly, what Apple is doing is in the best interest of our security and privacy. And it's a little surprising that Facebook is coming out as if Apple's done anything wrong. Like this is
all they've got, Dan. What else do they have?
It's not
all they've got. They've got to point the finger and blame someone, right? Chad and Ben. I mean, so Apple is an easy target since they're being transparent about what Facebook's doing and Facebook isn't, because something that I have always remembered, my entire life, if something's free, question it, because nothing is free. That's right. If it's free, you're the product, and that's what Facebook is. You are the product. They're tracking everything, everything you do.
Yeah, they're getting mad,
and it's really bad.
Well, I just pixelized myself, so no one can recognize me.
There's nothing they can do. I mean, just to kind of round out the conversation, there's not a whole lot Facebook can do about any of this. You're going to continue to throw tantrums. But as privacy and data protection laws continue to emerge around the world and evolve, they're going to have to adjust their business model. Sorry. I'm sorry this is inconvenient. But it's they rely on uneducated people because it motivates everyone from disinformation campaigns and malinformation campaigns and all of it to ad dollars, right? They need uneducated people to drive that model.
And Chad, what Chad means by uneducated people, not stupid people, not people who haven't gone to college, but people who don't understand what Facebook is as a business and what they do as their business model. Which is to build a profile on you and track every breath you take and every move you make.
Yep. And so thank you for clarifying that, because uneducated to these practices, right? Like unfamiliar. Unfamiliar might be a better word, because I don't want to imply that at all. But those of us, and there are many of us still, who are unfamiliar with Facebook's business model and the practices and how they take information and turn it into ad dollars and how they resell it. It's kind of like a CD. Like in the old days, you'd buy a CD brand new from Sam Goody or someplace, and you'd listen to it, you get all the enjoyment of it, and then you'd resell it to somebody else or sell it back to them, right? And then somebody else would sell it. That's just how we're using data now, right? So these data CDs or these profiles, however you want to imagine it in your mind, that it makes sense, are just being resold for anybody's purposes. And we have to have some rules around that, And so far we haven't really had any. And Facebook's mad.
Yeah, and as you say, Chad, if the product is free, then you are the product.
That's right.
Is that accurate?
That's right. And how you use the app, where you use the app, all of that is you're helping.
So circling back to deleting apps, for those who have not yet deleted Facebook from their devices, maybe that's a New Year's resolution.
No, I mean,
it could be.
Look, it's also good for your well-being to get that. I mean, let's baby step it. Start with Facebook Messenger. Facebook Messenger is extremely intrusive. Get that off your phone. Start there, baby steps, just little baby steps. And today they might be using this information for ads, but this information isn't going anywhere. Once it goes out onto the internet, it's there forever. So in 2 and 5 years, in 10 years, all this data that Facebook, Google, all these companies have on us, it's not going anywhere. And just because today it's for ads doesn't mean that they can't use it for other things down the road. So free yourself of Facebook, people. It is amazing. It's an amazing place to be. Liberate yourself.
And with that, we'll sign off. I'm sure Facebook's trying to hack us right now because of our messaging. Good thing we have good security practices, and that's going to be hard for them to do. But
it is. So next time, join us next time, and we'll talk about your automotive entertainment system and what data it's selling on you, because that's the hot topic this week, right?
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Cars, man, cars. It's just about awareness and educating each other, and these are good. That's why these streams are important, because we don't have a voice to transmit and disseminate some of this stuff. It makes things easier for the Facebooks and the criminals too. I hate to lump them in the same room, but they're kind of in the same room in my mind. Adware can be malware.
I don't hate to lump them in the same room. I'll lump them right together. Mark Zuckerberg and the bad actors are all together. Anyway.
It's tricky. It's tricky. They've done a lot of good things. There's a lot of groups on there that people, wouldn't have been able to get information for services and things that they need. Maybe they have special needs, people in their family are sick. There's a lot of good that's done, but
I think the bad outweighs the good for me, but that's just me.
It's a tough call, isn't it?
A lot of this stuff starts off with good intentions and then it gets out of hand. But let's think about, how did Facebook start? Was it ever good intentions?
No, it was
NSA
never good intentions, ever.
It was never good intentions. And with that, think about that, and we'll talk to you next year, 2021.
Happy New Year.
It's going to be so much better.
Bye, 2020. Bye.
Ciao. Goodbye.
Bye.